Hi, welcome to the first lesson of the Mastering Nova course. My name is Bruno Falcão. I'm the creator of this course, and I'm very excited to be here with you for this long marathon on how to learn using Nova. And not only the standard features, but we are also going to deep dive in some very nice things that will help you out to do those amazing back offices for your clients. So this first lesson, what we are going to do is basically to start from zero. We are going just to install Laravel Nova from scratch. So the only thing that I did here was I created a new project called Mastering Nova course that I have here. Let me just refresh it, get all the info. And I'm going just to configure here my database. I also created a database on the MySQL Mastering Nova course. Okay. And then what we need to do is to download the latest version of Nova. So at this moment you should have bought your license, and when you buy a license you have access to releases, licenses, and documentation. So if you click on releases you get your latest version of Laravel Nova to download. If you go here, let's just give it a moment. Here we go, and you do have this latest version 3.4.1. So these are the pull requests here that were committed and merged to this production version 3.4.1 of the Orion release. And it's also good that you go here to these pull requests and understand what was behind it, because sometimes it gives you some hints about how to use the functionality in case it's something new, or in case it's a bug that you had to create a workaround in case you're already using Nova, and you can see what was corrected on that case. So you just need to download the version, and you download it to the same folder of Mastering Nova course. So we just save it, and in this case it was already downloaded here to where? To this show downloads. Okay, Nova 3.4.1. Good. So in this case it's a local installation, so you just need to create a folder called Nova. You get the data, the content directly from here into here. Just give it a moment. Almost there. Okay, done. Good. And we need now to link our local Composer repository. So to do that, you just go to the documentation. You just need to copy paste this part here that says repositories. You put it here on your composer.json file somewhere, and from here all you need to do is just to say Laravel. You didn't require the Laravel package, and it's always the latest version that you have here. So this will allow you to then do a composer update. So Mastering Nova course, when you do a composer update, so let's give it a moment. Okay, it starts to update the files. Here we go, installing the dependencies for Laravel Nova, and it's installed. So the next step is to actually publish the Nova resources. So we do PHP artisan Nova install. There you go. So as you can see, it deployed the assets, the service provider, then the user resource. We're going to talk about this later on in case you're not familiar with it. And we just do a PHP artisan migrate to install some tables that are needed, especially for these field to action events. This one comes from the Laravel web app itself, and the failed jobs is for the queues, the jobs that fell on the queue in case you are using queuing on your web app. So the next step, since we are installing everything local, is to go to here to the app. In this case we need to put it on the config, the service provider of Laravel Nova. So it's on the app /providers / Nova service provider. So let me just give a moment here. Yeah, Nova service provider. Just to refresh, service provider. Okay, good. So if everything goes well, you just need to do PHP route lists, and you'll see exactly all the new routes for Nova. We're going to talk about this later on the next video tutorials for in the future. So now let's try to run Nova just to see if it runs. So I'm just going to start a new new server here, 8000, and by default it installs on the it runs on the /nova, on the route called Nova, and we don't have a user, right, to normally run here, unless you are already installing it on your web app that already have the users there using the default authentication gate. But that's not the case that we have here because it's a brand new installation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new user here. So web apps, just going to mastering Nova course, and you do PHP artisan Nova user, and then you give your name, Bruno at masteringnova.com, and choose a password. It creates a user, and now you can use it here at masteringnova.com and a password, and you logged in. So if you see this, you have installed well Nova on your computer or your environment where you are using it. But we still need to see two things. So one thing is that normally when you install Nova like this, it mirrors the code into your vendor. So you actually doesn't create a symbolic link, because it means that when you put new code here, it doesn't pass to the, even if you do a composer update, it doesn't pass to this folder that you have here from Laravel, in this case Laravel Nova, as you can see. So what you can do here is to force a symlink. You just need to write a specific parameter here that is called options, and then you call it symlink true. Okay, so when you do this, definitely it's going to be a symlink. So in my case, by default, it is a symlink here. So if I deleted it, and after writing this, I do again another composer update, you're going to see it says that it creates a junction. So let me do a composer update again, starting, and here we go, installing Laravel Nova, junctioning from Nova. So now each time I put new code here, it will automatically reflect. So this is one of the ways that you have to install Nova, but you also can use directly Composer. Since Nova they installed a server, a Composer local server on the nova.laravel.com. So you can install it on another way. So let's just try it out. So instead of having this way, you do a type Composer. It's called a Satis server, like they call it. So you remove these and say your URL, and then it's https nova.laravel.com, and here you say the version that you want. So you're in the version 3 at the moment, right? So we just need to put it 3.0 on this case. So let's see what happens now if I do a composer update. Well, it says I have a problem. So I'm just going to take out here the colon, and let's do a composer update and see what happens. So it's removing the junction and installing Laravel Nova 3.4.1. So because my composer already has my credentials, it didn't ask, but what can happen here is it will ask for your credentials, your username, your email, and your password that you register here on your Laravel Nova when you bought it, your license. Okay, so just for you to know, it will ask for your credentials, and you might need to put them here just once, and then it gets recorded on your computer. So no matter, in this case it's different, because each time you do a composer update and there is a new version of Nova on the website, in this case here, so if there will be a new pardon me, let me just go here to, so when there is a 3.4.2, all you need to do is just composer update, and don't forget that each time you do a composer update, you need to run again the Nova publish to publish the assets again on your computer, okay? Because sometimes they do the Nova team, they do changes on the assets. So that's it. We have the Laravel Nova completely installed, well installed, and on the next videos on this chapter, we are going to start using the standard functionalities of Nova, okay? Looking forward for it with you. So now that we have installed Laravel Nova, let's start understanding a bit behind the scenes how Laravel Nova works. and also a bit of guidance here on the screen about the structures that we can see here in terms of components. So the first thing that I want to show to you is about the config file. So if we go here to Nova, config Nova, sorry, you see that there is a lot of attributes, keys that you can change here. So let's go a bit and navigate a bit about them. So name is the name of your application. So it uses the app name in case you don't have it configured as a Nova app name. You can have your website with the app name and the Nova app name that you can put there on the title. So here where it says Laravel. So if you go here and you just write, for instance, mastering Nova, on F5, it changes there and changes here, as you can see, in 2 places. Okay, so the Nova domain name, this is the domain name associated with your application. This can be used to prevent Nova internal routes from being registered on subdomains which do not have access to your application, to your admin application. So in case you do have a domain name or you have a website with subdomains, as soon as you put here the right domain name, it just loads the routes on that domain name. It doesn't load the routes on any other subdomain that is not specified here as the domain name. So that's why I have this one here. So the Nova, it also comes from the you can see that on the Laravel routing those subdomains. So you go here to basics routing, and then you have subdomain routing. You can check this part and load. Normally it's not something that we do quite often, but Nova allows to block that routes from being loaded outside of the domain that you specify here. And then the Nova app URL. So this is basically when you click here on this mastering Nova, where does it point out? Okay, so it's by default it will point out to your let's say to your route, to the root of your website, but you can change it to anything else. Also the path for Nova, let's put it to Nova 2 so it will blow up. And if you now put Nova 2, you'll see that it loads now well here. So let me just take it out again. So the next ones, yeah, just take it out here. So the next one we have this Nova password reset broker. So if you go here to the auth, actually, sorry, we do have a guard first. I just jumped this out by mistake. So this is the guard. If you go here to the auth and you go to the guards, you can define your own guards to allow that you have users that, for instance, they can log in on your website because they do have a specific back office for them, but you might want to have a Nova guard where that user doesn't have access to the Nova back office itself. So when they do a login to basically protect your Nova routes, you can use another guard that will actually not log in the user if he was registered on your website back office. So this is where you can do that. And then the Nova password reset broker, it's the same for here on the auth. Now I have here on the bottom this password reset broker, so it's the same. You might not even want to use the password resets that were used by your website. You want the ones from Laravel Nova that was reset there. So this is where you can actually define there. And then the middleware, these are the default ones. We are going on the future lessons, more on advanced lessons. We are going also to put some new middlewares here, especially for multi-tenancy. But that's not for now. And then pagination type. The pagination type is this footer that you see here in all the paginations. For instance, simple, you can put links, and in an F5 it changed to links here. As you can see, it's a bit different, and actually it's very nice. So, and then the action resource, we're going to jump this one for now because I cannot explain without having more examples here. And then finally the currency, by default it comes dollars. I just placed Swiss francs on a previous test, but here we go. So you can put anything related to the ISO 4217. So this is the configuration of Nova. Let's continue to see some things that I think it's your interest too. So here on the resources vendor Nova, you have these partials, and this is all part of things that the community requested to somehow be able to change the, you know, the screen composition that you see here. For instance, you have a client and you are, you know, you don't want to say Laravel LLC here on the footer. You want to put the name of your client. Then you have this footer where actually you can put wherever you want here, you know, and it just affects that directly because it's a view that is loaded. You just need to pay attention on these views, is that on these resources, these view resources, that when you publish a new version of Nova and you do a publish of the resources again, Nova publish, then it will might override these resources if you force it. So you lose the resources the views that you change, right? So the logo, it's the logo that comes here on the top left. The meta is information that is being loaded here on this custom metadata. So this is a blade comment, that way you don't see anything there. But for instance, if I take the blade comment and do an F5, you see that now it appears here, this web icon. Okay. And finally, the user. The user is the top right component that you see here. You also have flexibility to change that. For instance, if I put a new list item here, just like this, you'll see that, let me just save it and do an F5. Now I have to. So you have now flexibility to change those components, which is really good, because before, on the first versions of Nova that I work on, there was nothing like this, and now you can do this. And I'm sure that David and all the Nova team, they're working to give us even more flexibility on the front end, especially on these view partials that we see here. So in terms of the source code itself of Nova, as we know, we downloaded here. You can use that link the first way I teach you about how to install Nova and Connect. So here you can just rename these web packs and install the Node tool, the Node models here. And then what happens is you can actually compile this Nova and change things here dynamically. Of course, if you then import a new version, you might lose things, but what is important to know is that you can actually compile and see how Nova works. You have everything that is done on Nova, everything that is compiled, especially view components. They are placed here on this GS, and then you have components, and then you have these forms. You have all the options here to understand what's going on. For instance, a default field that is loaded here. You have a label, a markdown field, a panel, a password, a select, and then you see all of the props that are passed here for the view component, and that you can actually, later on, we're going to do some new components, and new fields for you to see how this works, and also even some more advanced UI functionalities. So this is the part of the Nova, the resources we talked, the config we already talked. So let's just give another look here on the screen. So we have these dashboards. These are tools that are loaded here on the left. We are going to learn how to actually load much more things here and create our own ones, and also apply authorizations, contexts to them much later on this course. Here on the top you have a global search, and then here you have a resource search. So resources, as you can see, are they are connected directly to your model, okay, to your Eloquent models. They allow operations to be applied, permissions to be applied, authorizations, and also embedded with more functionalities on top of that model. So that's why we call it a resource. A resource is a combination on all of these that you can actually have on your model. Okay, so we will empower the model on a way that it becomes manageable in Laravel Nova. And here, as you can see, you have a search here for the resource. You can also create a new instance of the resource. So you just come here, and I just do a Joseph, Michael, wherever, sorry. And then you just put here like, I don't know, joseph@live.com, and then you put a password, and you make a create user, and, I don't know, something. And what happened here is that we just created a new Eloquent model. You create a new Eloquent model instance, right? And this is done dynamically and here on the fly. And we can then have details that we can see about the resource itself. And later on, we're going to see how do we affect the visibility and the permissions, the authorizations of all of these detailed fields that you see here. You can edit it on the fly and say it's no longer Joseph, but it's Michel. And when you update the user, it updates directly in the database. So all of these is interconnected in terms of the Eloquent model and the Nova resource that you are using here. Finally, the global search, if I search by Joseph, you'll see that it automatically gives me this resource group called users and Joseph. But if tomorrow we have another resource called products and we also have a Joseph, we are going to learn how to actually put here we are going to learn how to affect this global search also on other resources and other type of information that we want. So this is just a start, and it shows to you behind the scenes how Laravel Nova works. Let's just take a look at something that goes really behind the scenes. It's how Nova communicates together all of this information. So if I click here, let me just click on users. It's simple. So if I click on your users, and then I see that I have these user cards, filters, search, lenses, and actions, right? And here what happens basically is we are creating here Nova is asking for information about this resource. Does this resource has cards? Does this resource has filters? Does this resource have lenses? What was the type of search that it came here? What was do we have actions with relationships that should appear somewhere else? And finally, what is the count that we have here on the bottom? So it always uses this Nova API. Everything on the Nova framework goes in terms of interactions with the databases and with the framework via this Nova API. So everything works like this. And we are going to see a lot of examples where I will come here and show you the response, and then we will understand some things that are coming and how do they affect the front ends, and how we can actually use that to then manage the front end UI and put information there on your components and your fields or actions or whatever. So again, this was just a very brief way on how Laravel Nova works behind the scenes. And on the next tutorial, we are going to start creating things here. We're going to start creating our first resource. Okay, so looking forward for it, and see you on the next video tutorial. Bye bye. So on previous lesson, we learned about the, let's say, the basic structure about Laravel Nova, and also what type of structure and code and files are added to your websites. Here now we are going to learn a bit more about resources. So as I said on the previous lesson, resources are models that are empowered to have a functionality, right? So for instance, in this case, we see users here, so this is connected to the user model. And then you see here 2 entries for based on the user eloquent model. So you have one for Joseph and another one for Bruno. And these ones, the resource user, it comes by default when you install Laravel Nova. So let's see what does it come from and where is it actually installed. So you go to app and then Nova, and then you see this user resource here. And inside, when you open this user resource, you see a lot of information here that comes from this class user resource. So we're not going to create now a user resource. We do it just right after this video. We are just going to see what comes on the resource. So first, you see that it says here the model that is attached to. So this is one of the main functionalities of the resource, is to know where it actually needs to connect to what eloquent model. And here is where you actually define your eloquent model. Okay, so this is connecting to this app user that also comes by default on your web apps that you create with Laravel. Secondly, there is a single value that should be used to represent resource when being displayed. So it shows this title name, and this is used when we are using these resources on another type of relationship. So let's give an example. This resource of users, you have a relationship to another tab, another resource that is, for instance, activities for a user. And when you go for one of those activities and you want to connect to a user, an activity, the drop down, imagine it's a drop down, and you can, what should be the name, the value that should appear inside that drop down. So in this case, it says name has the attribute that should appear inside drop down. So each time there is a representation of this resource, it's to be used to represent the resource when being displayed. So each time an object, a relationship, wherever calls this resource representation, this is what the attribute should actually be returned from this resource. Also, besides the title, there is also a subtitle that we'll see later on. You can also pass a subtitle, or you can also override some functionalities from the class itself and compute this kind of information. Okay, so Nova is very flexible on a lot of things that we are going to see later on. And especially on titles and displays, there is a lot of things you can do, even computation of values for fields and things like that. So continuing here, the columns that should be searched on. So this is for the global and resource searching. So it says ID, name, and email. So just to give an example, if I click here on this global search and I search for live.com, as you can see, it appears as Joseph Mitchell because it's searching by the email. But if I remove this email and I search again live.com, no results found. See, so it gives you the attributes that you should use to search information. For instance, ID might not be a good thing to search, because no matter if you search for one, and then it gives you all the let's say the IDs that belongs to those eloquent values models. Sorry, maybe normal name, email. It makes sense. You need to think about it when you create your resource. What kind of search you want to apply, and then fields. We enter now a zone that is a lot of functions here that I'm going to explain briefly. So fields is one that you're going to use a lot. It defines all the fields that your resource will have to basically enrich its own data. And normally they are directly connected to the fields that you have on your model. So for instance, an ID for search, for sure you might have one, and then a gravatar, you might not have one, but this gravatar is created that will have this automatic design here that you see. So for instance, if I create a user now, I don't know, with an email, well, I don't know one from gravatar, but if you have a user with a gravatar, it automatically shows the image there. This is the gravatar. The text is basically an input text, so here comes the name. And then sortable means if you are in your index context, you can sort here on these two lines that you see. So for instance, if you remove these, you see that the sortable disappears there, right? So, and then you can and then the text for the email, and then you see that there has some rules here that you can pass. This is exactly the rules from Laravel that you can use, but you also have transversal rules for any type of action that you're doing, and also specific action rules. So you have context, as we talked here, index, detail, and form, and you have actions like creation, update, deletion, and you can actually pass what type of rules you want to do when you are creating. So creating means when you are on this type of context, or when you are actually editing. As you can know, you can have different types of rules on both cases, right? So for instance, of course, the email needs to be unique here, but on update, you also need to make it unique, but not for the resource ID that you are using. And this is another type of things that you will see, this small nomenclature like resource ID. So the update rules for unique now receives this resource ID that actually is dynamic given the resource ID that you are on the page here on the top. So this is the resource ID. It's this number 2 that actually is the eloquent ID. In password is just a normal field for password. So there is a lot of fields that you can use, and you have a list of fields on the Laravel documentation. We are not going to pass by all of them, but more or less they all work on the same structure. They all have mostly the sortable, the rules in case the field can have date on it, and these type of actions like creation, update, only on forms. Now this only on forms shows the visibility of the field, and we are also going to see that we have some types of visibilities that we are going to use when we create our new resource on the next tutorial. So the next tutorial is going to be about creating a new resource and also upgrading that resource to a level that we can explain a lot of things there. Finally, we have cards, filters, lenses, and actions. All of these is components that you will create, that you can create, to enrich your resource. So when you are here on the resource on this page, you can have cards that appear here on the top. So specific widgets of information that you can have. A filter, it's also connected here on the right. It appears a filter that you can do for the fact that you want to filter information like only, I don't know, give me only lines that the email ends with live.com. So that's a filter. Then you have lenses, that is a different way of seeing information based on business filtering that you have. So you don't filter by specifically by the index query that is here, but you filter by the business information that you want to put there, the conditionals for your business information. Like, give me all the users that are admins. I don't know, just to give an example. So you don't have a filter directly here to do that. And then finally, actions. Actions is when you want to do things based on the lines that you click here. You can then have here on top right an action like, I don't know, send emails to, or send welcome emails to all of the ones that you checked here, and then you see an action that you can just choose and basically trigger their action. Okay, so that's it. It's a first let's say pass by what is a resource. We are going to create a new resource on the next tutorial, and we are going to start exploring much more functionalities on the resource. Resources are the core of Laravel Nova, so I really want you to understand it correctly. So we are going to have a couple of lessons on these parts from now on. Thank you. After having a first glance on the user's resource, let's create our first resource now. To create a resource, first you need to have your Eloquent model. So I just pre-warmed up here a bit the source code in terms of creating my Eloquent model for us to use now. So just go here to the app, product, and I just created a product model, Eloquent model here with some fields, some columns. One is active and another one dates publisher that gets some casts. And just to show to you the table itself, it's going to be composed by the name, a description, a date published is active, and some timestamps. So as you can see, there will be a string, a text. So let's say a very long string if you need to have a lot of content here. That is nullable. And then the date published for this product. So actually when the product was, for instance, made live on your website. And finally, a check flag that says if the product is active or not. So no matter what date published we have here, we can consider these as active or inactive. So if you inactive this product, no matter what date you have here, it should be hidden from the websites. So let's start by running the migration file. So I'm just going here to the project and do PHP artisan migrate. Oops. Migrate. And looks like I just migrated it before for a test. So let me just delete it here. These are two lines. So this is how I actually should delete migration files that you run, so you can run them again. PHP artisan migrate, and it creates now the products. So if you now go here to my MySQL and I do refresh, I have this products table here. Okay, so name, description, date published is active. So we're going to create a resource and some fields, and we are going to start just on this tutorial lesson, just to get let's say, initiated the resource, and then on the next one we're going to deep dive a bit more in the fields. So here, to create a resource, how do you do via the command prompt? You do have a set of options on the Nova prefix. So if you do PHP artisan Nova, you'll see you have like action, asset cards, a lot of stuff going on here that we're going to talk about these in future lessons, most of them. But especially this one, Nova resource. This is where everything starts. Well, actually everything starts on the Nova user, right? Like we saw on the first lesson, on the first tutorial. But here we do have this Nova publish. So you go here and you just do like PHP artisan, sorry, not publish, the resource, Nova resource. And if you do a help, you'll see you have the name that you need to pass for the resource, and then the model, and the model class being represented. So if I call it product, in this case, so you give the singular name, just like the user that you have here. Sorry, here, user, so it's a singular name, and say the model is actually the product itself. So when you call it the product here on the model, it directs to the app / product model. So you're going to see that it creates the resource exactly like that. So we go back here and you see that now I have on Nova. So this is where by default the resources are being created here. So you have the user that was already created by default when you install Nova, and then you have the product that basically, sorry, I gave 2 equals, that's why there is a mistake here when I created here this equals that is here. So in this case we do have app product on the model, and it creates the resource just like this. So this is the start. We have a resource we have called product. And what happens now here on my Nova? So if I do an F5, you'll see that the products immediately appear here, and there is a lot of stuff immediately instantiated by this on this resource. So it calls the plural name, so products, as you can see, and there is nothing else. It just points out to the Eloquent model. And in this case, even if you create product, there is nothing that you can do, because I mean, it might even give an error. Yeah, see, there is not default value for name because it's not nullable, so it's required. So as you can see, there is nothing here, but the resource itself is already instantiated, which is great because it scaffolds a lot of information here that gives you, just a good start for you to then populate and let's say tweak and configure your resource the way you want. Okay, so let's on this tutorial, let's go by some of the parameters and the properties that you can use. And before that, let me just say where actually these resources initialization comes from. As you can see, you create a resource and suddenly it appears here on the left. So how does Nova actually loads that? So Nova loads it by the provider itself. So if you go to Nova Service Provider, you see that there is a lot of stuff going on here, but it comes from this extension of this Nova Application Service Provider, right? And if you search here for resources, see it says Nova resources in app path Nova. So basically on this app path folder Nova, anything that are resources class instantiation of resources, then it automatically will populate there. But you can actually load resources from wherever you want. So you just need to override this method on your Nova Service Provider. You just come here and just copy paste this. And you can say, okay, I load it from here, but you can also load it from anywhere that you want. Instead of having these resources in, you just say Nova resources, and then you can pass here just to illustrate to you. And I'm going to delete this one. So if I do an F5, I might not have anything on the left. Well, actually, method resource does not use its resources. Nothing happens, right? Because it gives an error. But I can just pass here the ones that I want. So for instance, I just want to have the product class. Do an F5, and then you need to say what is the resource that you want. So it's this one, right? The Nova product, not the model itself. And when you do an F5, hopefully it should work. Yeah, see actions and products. So when you pass now here another user class, sorry, it's going to give an error because I forgot to instantiate the user itself, the resource. Yeah, I knew. Here we go, users and product, right? So this is again just to show to you that Nova gives a lot of flexibility on these. Actually, you can put any type of business logic that you want to initially load resources here, but we are going to discover another way with authorization later on. How do you actually show resources and hide resources given some profiles that you have for your users, right, that are visiting your back office. So I'm just going to delete this so we can continue. This was just a side knowledge for you to have. I like to do these online tutorials, so expect this a lot from all the time. So here in this model, you do have here the model, so let's continue. The single value that should be used to represent the resource when it's being displayed. So the title shows ID, when this is not a good thing, because if I have my product and I want to show stuff about my product, then I want to, of course, show the name of the product, right? So you just change it to name. The columns that should be search ID for sure is not one of them, but maybe name, that's for sure. Maybe you want to have also a date. But for now, just put it a name because we just want to show the name on those global searches that we have. Get the fields displayed by the resource. So here it's actually where it's one of the parts of the heart of the resource is where you put the fields that constitute your Eloquent model attributes. On this case, we're going to get that in a second. And then you can put the cards that you want to load here, the filters, lenses, and actions. For now, we don't go here. We just go to the fields. And even before going to the fields, let me show you here some properties that I think it's curious for you to know, and at least can be a bit essential on some cases. So for instance, you have a way to hide this resource from the navigation bar, even from here. So you just say public static and then display in navigation, if I'm not mistaken, and you just put a false and look at what happens here on the left. See, it just disappears. So another thing that you can do is actually group your resources. So you can call it a name on the group, for instance admin, I don't know, whatever, and look at the left, it creates a group. This is something in the beginning when Nova was made, nothing this exists, and this was a request made by the community. And of course we had some packages that were doing these customized code, but then finally it came out of the box from the framework. It's something that happens a lot on the community of Nova, is actually on the life cycle of Nova, is the community develops things, and then in most of the cases, if they are really good, they serve as ideas for James or David develop them as out of the box from the framework itself, and then everybody can get it. Sometimes it's not exactly as the custom package that was developed by the author, but it's very close to what we need, and most of the cases we just then use the out of the box functionalities. So another thing that you can also have is the global searchable, and this one I cannot show because we don't have data here. So let's go just to the user, and I just go here and I write public static globally searchable equals to false. So it means that you just inhibit this resource from being searchable. So for instance, as you know, in your users we have this Joseph. So now if I search for Joseph, it should not appear anything. See, no results found. As soon as I put true and I write Joseph again, there you go, you have the resource available for you. You have more things like traffic cops. I mean, you can look at the documentation for these, but just to give another example, you have this traffic cop equals to false or equals to true, and in this case what happens is in case two users are editing the same resource ID, it just doesn't allow a message to appear to say please, you're not using the latest changes, please reload your resource. So this is called traffic copy, something it came also very recently. You have more stuff like page per page options, like another attribute that you can use to reflect this number of pages that you have here per page, 25, 50, 100, but you can change that if you want to. So again, let's first, now we already passed 10 minutes, let me just go here to the product and let's create some IDs here, just standard IDs, and then we finish the tutorial here. So we can create the text. In this case, this is how you create fields. It's very simple. The first one is the label that you want to give, and if you don't put the name of the attribute itself, it computes from the label itself as a camel case. So you just call it text name, and we also have a text area field. So this is for the description, right? So description and description. And also the date itself, right? We have a date there. That was the field called, so I'm going to call it a different date. So called published dates, but actually the field was called date published. See, just to show the difference between one and another. So you just do like this. And finally, I think it was the boolean, yeah, the active. So we put the boolean field make, and we call it active, like a question, and then we call it is active. So let me just load all the namespaces from fields. Again, another one here, another one here, and another one here. So if we go now to our products, we should see some stuff. Create products, there you go. So this text area is always a bit big. We cannot customize it. We can customize, maybe I'll do a tutorial just how to customize this text area. So let me create here a product call, for instance, pack of roses. This is a normal pack of roses. Let's say it was published today and it's active. So when you create the product, you just create an eloquent model instance on your database. So if I go here to my database, here we go. See, this is the heart of Nova, is the resource management that exists. So from here we are going to do a lot of things that starts from here, but this is the basic one. So you curate your resources. Of course you have descriptions, it's a text area, the details shows like this, but everything is customizable if you don't want to see. There is no description here, and if you want, for instance, to show that, so you just would always show, just to give an example about the nice things that you can do. And actually it didn't work out, yeah, because I need also to put maybe the visibility here. So show on index. So this, we're going to learn this in the next tutorial just for you to see. Yeah, description is a normal pack of roses. So yeah, so this is it. So the resource is created. We went by the normal properties of the resource. We're going to see much more properties in the future as long as we start having new challenges here. And finally we created some fields for you to see how easy it is. Okay, so keep in contact, because on the next tutorial we're going to deep dive a bit on these fields and how we can actually tweak them a bit in terms of visibility and context and validation rules. See you soon. Bye bye. Now that we have the fields for our resource, let's start deep diving a bit more on these fields part. So we're just going to pass by some methods that you can use on your fields that surely are going to be very popular for you. So in this case, I'm just going to use and extend some of these fields, and from there on I think you'll get a clear picture about what you can do with them, and later, as I also said, we will extend some of those fields a bit more, even in a very deep dive to how we can use your own business logic about authorization of those fields. So you can go to a level that a field appears if a certain criteria are met for that field to be shown, or in a specific update, creation, index, or detail context. So let's just go here by starting to, for instance, showing you how you can actually change, for instance, a placeholder. So what is a placeholder? So if in case you're not familiar with, the input placeholder is this part here that says name. So this is an input placeholder. So for instance, Nova allows us to access our field data with what it's called extra attributes. So in this case, if I want to change the extra attribute placeholder, all you need to do is to extend it with a method that is called meta, with meta in this case, and you say that for the extra attributes, and you say the extra attribute placeholder would say please input your name. So this might start to be a bit let's say new for you, and a bit like, okay, so if I want to do something, I need to go by the with method. Well, some cases use with method, and other cases we do have a specific method to work on it. The with method, it's a way for you to say, okay, pass a value on a specific variable to my view component, and from there on use that variable with that value for wherever it needs. So in this case, placeholder is a variable that exists on the text field that will actually show the placeholder value that is here on the right. So for instance, on this case, let's just take a look about where this placeholder is used on the field itself. So if I go here to Nova, resources, form, and then text field. So this is the view component that is loaded when we do a text field, when we render a text field. And here you can see a lot of information, especially this vbind extra attribute. So all of these vbind, all these properties that come in will be rendered on that input. So if you scroll a bit below, scroll a bit down, you see that there is a computer for default attributes, right? And here there is another one for extra attributes. So default attributes are the ones given by Nova. Extra attributes are the ones that you pass or the ones that you will override. So in this case, we are overriding this placeholder. As you can see, it says this field placeholder or this field name in case it doesn't exist. So that's why you see the same as here, name, description, because we don't have a placeholder, right? So by the fact that we are passing this placeholder, then it will show our value and not the name of the attribute itself. So if I do an F5, you'll see please input your name. So this is one example about what you can do with extra attributes passing by this method called with meta. Another thing that we can do, for instance, is apply rules, and rules are just the normal rules, the Laravel rules. So for instance, you have the rules one, like this one, this method that is global, applies to any input in case of creation or update. And then you do have creation and update rules, just like I shown to you some previous lessons on the user. I think, yeah, creation rules and update rules, as you can see here. So rules are just normal rules you could put. You could put a required one, you just separate them by these formats, and then I just put I don't know, maximum 100 required, and the rule is automatically applied. So let's put 10. So if I put more than 10 fields under create product, it says the name cannot be greater than 10 characters. So this is very nice because you can also do your own custom rules. So for instance, we do have this date here, right? And let's say that we want to make it mandatory. So we pass the rules saying required. But now you want to pass another rule that is it's to say, okay, let me just allow future dates. Okay, so and you want to do it directly here via rule. So you can pass a customized rule directly here inlined. So with 3 parameters, the attribute, the value, and the fail. I'll explain to you in a minute. What are those ones? And here, the attribute is basically the attribute that you're passing. The value is the value that is coming, and the fail is the fail function to actually show the error. And this is very simple. So if you want to see something on the bottom line, just throw new exception, just to see it working. Okay, we do just like this. Create product. There is a problem submitting a form. Hi there. See? So this is just to see the message there, but the file one appears right below the field. So in this case, if we want to put the let's say only allow future ones, so you can say if, let's use the carbon support object here from support utility from format, and you just put you just say exactly where you're loading from. So in this case, the value is coming on this format, and we say if it's from the past, and here just loading the support. So you say if carbon create format is past, then something should happen, right? So and in this case, what we do is do a return fail, see the function itself, and you say please only future dates. And let's try it out. So we have 07 create product, please only future dates, 28 create product. Yeah, we have a problem here. Roses, no, tulips in this case. Back off, and just removing here the max and create product. There you go. So as you can see, very flexible. I mean, you can come here, update, changes to active. The database immediately reflects that in terms of is active or not, with true or false, 1 or 0. And as you can see here on the properties that you can do, basically it's wherever you want. So on the Laravel documentation, on the Nova documentation, you do see all the parameters that you can use, and especially on this show on index, you do have a lot of them where you can define if you show on index. So what is the index? Remember, so this is the index context, this is the detail context, this is the form context. So you can select where you want to see the fields or not, and how much you want to see them. And another thing that you can do is also define some certain level of computations on them in terms of display, and you're going to see that on the next tutorial. So again, on this one was just to extend you a bit the fields, so you can get a first impression about how it works. And we will continue now not only on the fields, but also exploring lenses, indexes, lenses and filters, sorry, and cards at the end, and metrics too. So we are going to pass by all of these also a few functionalities from Nova on the next tutorial. So keep in touch. Stay tuned. Bye bye. Let's get into other type of functionalities on our resources besides the fields. And we're going to start to learn how we can create a filter. So a filter basically will extend the scope of your index query that you have here. So for instance, in this case, it will filter down information accordingly to something that you want to put on as a where clause. So for instance, here in this case, the index query is showing all these values. Now imagine if you could have a filter that says, okay, give me only the active ones and give me the ones that are inactive. And you could have something here on the top of the filter that appears here on this trashed, on top of this trash, that shows that like with active or only active, only inactive. So that's what we are going to do, and this is called filters. Again, it applies custom conditions, let's say, to your index queries. If you go to the nova.laravel.com, you will see that there is information here about the filters and the type of filters that you can create. So filters, you see, and in this case, not the custom one here, defining, it's this one. So here you'll see that you have different types of filters. This is the standard filter where you select an option and it filters down a specific value. Here, in this case, the select. Then you have the Boolean filters with checkboxes here if you want. And also finally, you can also have dates filter where you have this birth date filter here where you can use a calendar, or then you can have a dynamic filters. They are a bit more complex, but they give you a lot of liberty to construct it the way you want. So what we are going to do is basically to construct the select filter, and for that what we need to do is to go to the command line and write PHP artisan nova filter, and then you give the filter. So we are going to create a filter that filters active states. So we both have products and users with active states. So I just created on the users, this is active. I loaded it with a seed file. So we have a lot of things here a lot of users for us to filter down. But we are going to use it for products and users. And really at the end, I'm going to give a small gem here on this one. That is how we can create a label, dynamic label on the filtering given the type of resource that that you are using on. So here, how we do that, we go back here to the console and we write active status filter, and you just click enter and it creates the filter here on the Nova app, Nova, and then filters, active status. So here you have your filter, select filter, type of complete view component that needs to load on, then is apply, and these options just like I just showed in the documentation. Now, given the two options that we want to create here, we want, as I said, we want to have an active and inactive. So we just put like filter by, in this case, by active, because it's already filter, right? So we just put by active, and then you put the ones that have a value equals to 1, and by inactive, the ones that have a value equals to 0. So because I have just a boolean on my data on my table, you can just put 1, 0. If you put like this, it passes a true, false, and sometimes does give you accurate results that that you need. So just 1 and 0 here. And on the query, it's very simple. Where, and then is active, and then the value. So we have the requests, the query, and the value. Request, it's because you can have access to specific information on that request. It's very useful because you need to have other type of information from there. And then the query is basically your query builder from the Eloquent builder, and then finally the value, it's the value that comes from the selection of these options that are here, okay? So when you do this, you then have your filter that's configured ready to use. So how do you actually use the filter on the resources? For instance, you go to the user, and then you have here a filter zone, and where you just need to say return new active status, and that's it. This is actually important. So if you go here to the users now, and you select here, you see active status by active, there you go, or by inactive, there you go. As simple as this. Here shows the cardinality of the filters that you're using, and the filter is created. So nothing really fancy, pretty straightforward to create filters. Of course, this is a very basic filter, right? But you can have filters much more complex than these ones. And it's just to tell you that filter, they do filter information here, but it's just about the screen itself. It's not about nothing about authorization. So for instance, let me give an example. If we click here on this one that says 100, so this one is inactive, right? So if I go back here and I select the active ones, and as you can see, there is that one number with ID 100 doesn't appear, right? But if I click here on this one and then I go back to 100, as you can see, I have permission to see that data, even if it's not, even if it's not visible, it just shows to you on the screen, the index query, like it's called. It's just filtering data on your screen. It doesn't actually give the security for you not to access other type of resource primary key data. Okay, this is very important for you to always keep in mind, and we're going to resolve this in other part of the other chapter of this course. So given this, let's put here another example about how do we name things. So it says active status, because it's the active status of the filter, is the name by default of the filter, the humanized name. But if we go here to the filter and you apply one that is called public function, you can actually go by two ways. You can put just a name and you write my active, select active status, not a function, sorry. We'll go to the function right after. And if we now do an F5, when you click here, see select active status. Now, because we are using this filter, we're going to use this filter on two resources. So let me already go there to the product and also use it. Filters, and put new active status. There you go. So if I now go to the products, you'll see it here, active status. But as you can see, it says select active status, right? What if we want, and this is the small gem I want to give to you, how do you pass here dynamically the risk? I want to say select product active state, or select product status, or just product status. And if you go to the users, if you navigate to the users, then I want to say select user status. So how do we do this? And this comes now to something new that I want to let you know. So here, first, you don't pass it by a static variable. So also Nova has a public function name that you can override. And here on this name, for now, I just do return status. And you're going to see that it works exactly the same way, status. But now I want to say, in this case, product status or user status. I want him to be dynamic given where I am. And this is now where you can see that Nova allows you to have a class full of static methods that gives you a lot of information about the context where you are at this moment. And that is about the Nova itself class that has those static methods inside. So first of all, what we see also here on the top is that you do have here your resource, in this case the route key. So it's called users, and that's the let's say the name, that with that name you can code, you can understand what is the class that it comes from, the resource class, and then get the singular label of that, right? The singular label of the class. If you go here, you don't see it here, but you do have a singular label. If you go to the resource, singular label, see, singular label. You can actually override this and write the singular label or the plural label. That is called just label, not plural label in this case. So there is, of course, a computation that appears here for you, but basically you can override these two methods on your resource and then do whatever you want here. Okay, so what we're going to do is going to get this singular label. I want us to write here like not product status, but something dynamic, right? So I'm going to put here resource singular label, right? And then the rest. So how do we compute this resource singular label? So the first thing we need to know is I want to access that request, right? I want to get the path that is here, Nova resources users. So to get this, you just get the request and then the path. So that's what I want. When you get this, you get a full string starting here on, in this case, resources users, because Nova is already part of the prefix, so it just comes this resources / users. So on that case, I'm going to do an explode using the slash, and I want the position 1, not the resources but the users. Okay, so this gives me the resource key. Okay, resource key. Now with this, I now need to know what is the class affected to it. So the class affected to it, the resource class, comes by the Nova. So on this Nova you have a resource, and I'm going to show it right after, resource for key. And if you search for this resource for key, actually I need to go to Nova here, and then resource for key. Get the resource class name for a given key. That's as simple as. So the key is that users that you see here, right? And what we want now is the class name for that. So you do a resource for key, and then you pass the resource key on it. So again, here resource key is going to be users, and here I'm going to say, okay, give me the class name for these users, okay, and then return the singular label of it. So what is a singular label? Is the resource singular label. It's equals to my resource class, and in this case, like I said, I never remember, singular label. So that's what I want. And here we go. So again, resource key, in this case, this will explode the resources / users. So it gets that user one, the users. Then here the resource key will come back with a app / Nova / and then your class, like for instance the product. And in here you just get that singular label of the product, right? And then you just write status. So let's see if this works now. Then F5, the moment of truth. So we are in the user status. Now let's go to product status, huh? See? So this is really, really nice when you start deep diving on Nova and understanding how these concepts work. So again, we are going to explore much more about this Nova here, because we can have a lot of information, but especially when you do these kind of things until here, then you get access to the class name, and then from here you can do a lot of things in case, especially for the custom features that you need to work on, and to also understand what kind of resource context is on the page. So this is how you do it. And again, filters all the way. You have different types of filters, and of course you can explore them specifically for your business needs. Thank you. This time we are going to learn something a bit more advanced than filters, that is called lenses. So lenses are views that you apply on your resource that can compute fields, so can compute columns. So while filters work directly on the index query, so that I just explained about what we just discussed. So here on products, for instance, you can have this product status active, and it just filters by the effective columns that you have here. Lenses allows you to actually completely take control over the query that is being applied here for this resource. Okay, so the query that you're going to apply will still be connected to the resource that you are currently working on. Okay, so for that we use lenses, and what we're going to do here now is to create our first lenses. So I just add some factories here, some data on the products. I just run a factory here to put some, I don't know, 100 products and also 100 users, and I create here a table called orders that just joins users with the product with a quantity. Okay, and here on the products I also have the price of the product. Okay, so I just load all of these with factories, but I think you start to understand where I want to go. So we have users that buy things, buy products in this case, and those products, those orders, those sales, they are traced here on the orders table. Okay, this user bought this product, bought 5 items of this product on this date, and the product, as you can see here, has a name, a description, and a price, and say if it's active or not, although for now it doesn't matter on this exercise that we are going to do here. So with this taken in mind, I just start the Laravel Nova here, and of course in the documentation you have everything that you need to know. The tricky part is this part about how do you construct your query, and we are going to see again another small gem that I'm going to tell you here about how you can resolve an issue that normally happens on lenses when you do complex queries. So we are going to take this like within Portugal by the horns. So we are going to already start by a complex example, and you can see on that complex example how do you manage to still have sorting capabilities on your query. Okay, so first we are going to generate the error, and then we are going to correct the error, and of course before that we are going to see how lenses work. So very well, let's then understand how we can create a lens. And to create one, you just need to go here to the command prompt, and you just write PHP artisan Nova, and it's lenses, and then lens, and then if you put the name, you can, let's say, top buyers. So what I want to do is when I go to the resource here of users, I want to have a lens that basically show me the user and then the sum of all the products that he bought. Okay, that's it. So it's going to be the ID, the name, and the sum of the products that he bought. And then what we want to see is for instance, understand who is our top buyers, right? So I'm going to call these lenses exactly that, top buyers. And you click enter. And here in the app, Nova lenses, you see that have these top buyers for you ready to go. So what you need to see also here is that you have this query, you have these fields, and then some stuff, cards, filters, and finally a URI key here that normally we don't change this unless you are really on a more advanced topic. So for now, what matters is this card and filters and actions. You can, when you are using in lenses, you can have specific cards, filters, and actions. This is really great, and because it completely contexts your personalized query, your personalized data, specifically with cards or filters or actions, and you can even have authorization on top of this. Okay, so again, only this course, all the videos that I'm doing for you, we are just scratching the surface, to be honest with you. I mean, this number of videos we are doing here, we can go on and on and on just to show examples about how all of these things works together. Okay, what is important for you to know is that you have these possibilities, and then from there on you can use them on your own business need for your back office that you are building on. Very good. So let's go here to this query, and here on this query you see that this is exactly where the engine processes the query itself. Okay, so this is where we are going. This is a query builder object that you have here. So from here, connected this query to the Eloquent model. Okay, so don't forget that, and in this case to the resource users that we are going to do, and we are going first to do a first approach to actually get that information that we need. So as I just said here, I think I still have the query somewhere here. Let me check. Products, orders. I don't. So I can just create it here. So what we want is a select. So I said we're going to have users.id, because we need always to pass the ID, always pass the primary key. Okay, never forget that, because that's the way Nova detects the primary key to then edit the resource instance, right, from your Eloquent model. So users.id, I want a users.name, and I want products.price, but I want to sum these, right, and I want to group by users.id at the end. And in the middle, what we want is from users, and of course we need to have an inner join with that orders table. So inner join orders dot orders on in this case users dot user ID equals to orders users dot ID equals to orders dot user ID. So this is one of the connections, but we also need to connect it to the products, because that's the way you then can sum the price, right? So we want also a products.id products.id equals to orders.product ID, and we have to group by these by the users.id. So that's this stuff group by, let's see, this stuff runs, yeah, it runs. So ID, name, sometimes I like to, even if it's self-explicit, but I also like to pass them total, right? There you go. So ID, name, and total. This is information you get, right? So username, the ID of that user, and then the total amount of products that that user bought. So this is what we want to replicate now in our query, and we're going to do it by the book, let's say, so as Laravel documentation shows. So since we have the query builder here from the Eloquent model, we just start by applying what we need. So we say, okay, I want to select. In this case, we do have computation here in terms of the columns. So you need to have you need to go on the raw, the database raw, and then you just put what is the columns that you want. So I want the users.id as ID. I want the users.name as name, and I want that sum as total. So this sum is products.price, right? So this is what we want to get as columns from our query, right? What we want to do, we want to do a join. Actually, we want to do two joins, right? So one join is to the orders table, and another join is to the products, because the user is already connected to this resource, right? So we don't need to put another join users. That doesn't. The from is the Eloquent resource here. It's the Eloquent table that we use near the users, so the from there. So here on the join orders, we are going to connect first the users.id equals to orders.user ID, and the second one, products.id equals to orders.product ID. Okay, good. And finally, we need to put just a group by. So I love these Eloquent builders, these database builders, or Eloquent builder, Eloquent database builders, query builders, sorry, because they are really eloquent. I mean, you just need to pass the methods, and it self-constructs the database query, right? It's basically what we do with these methods. We just use methods to basically transform these into the framework transform these into an SQL query. So group by users.id, and hopefully this will work. So these fields is actually the columns that you're going to see here. It's not the fields from the edit, okay? That's still the resource itself. So maybe this should have been called columns, I don't know. So the fields available to the lens. So the fields that we have is the ID. We need a text make for the name. That's basically what we passed here. Name. And we need another one for the total, right? So we just put like total. And that's it. So let's see if it, of course I need to add these lenses to the user resource. So you just need to come here, lenses, and you put new top buyers. F5, successfully imported the namespace, and this one is already there. This one field, this DB successfully imported, and I think it's going to fly. Lenses, see? So this is lenses that you have here, and you have the top buyers that we just saved. So if I click on the top buyers, there you go. You see ID, name, total, and you can view. When you view, you see the information from the resource. Never forget, it's from the resource that you see the information. And let me apply it again. Actually, there is not a back button here that goes back to the, it's here. Oh, all this learning. I know it goes to the resource, so it doesn't go to the lenses itself. Well, okay. So here, as you can see, this is the filters in case you want to apply filters specific for these lenses. And the nice thing is when we edit, you edit that resource because of that ID. So instead of Prince2, I say like this. We say update user. And when you go to users back to the lenses, you'll see that it's now calling Sylvain Prince2. So again, see, it's amazing. You get all the query, all the computation, all the information. And until here, it looks quite nice, right? The problem is when we start now putting some things on the table here, and you see that it's going to crash. So because of the query itself. So this query is made on a certain way. And as you can see, the ID is easy to sort. And we're going to talk about the sorting now. See, the sort is nice here because the ID is unique and it's not a computed query. The name also might work well. So let's try it out. Sortable. And I'm just already put here the challenge. That's the computed one. So let's see how we resolve that. So name, good, goes pretty well, flies well, but look at the total now. Bang. Why? Because there is actually, it says it's trying to order by the users.total, and this is a computed column, right? So unfortunately, the framework doesn't order by the column total. It goes by the full name of the column, users.column.total. And it is here that creates the problem. So how can we solve that? We need to do a query inside a query. So that's basically how we do. We are going to do, if we go back here to our SQL, this is because we have the computed there. We are going to do this: select ID, name, total from this select and call it users. This is the way, it's exactly the same result, but then you are passing the name of the columns with exactly the way the framework can then order. So let's go back to our query. Here we go. So how can we do this? How can we actually do that? Well, there is several ways to do it. I'm just going to show you one way that might not be the perfect way, but at least it solves the problem right now for you to see. So we are going to inject a raw query here. So with a from. So the from allows us to use this from and then create a subquery that we need here, right? So first of all, what we need to do is this from, and now we pass our DB raw query that we have there. So let me just put the DB raw query here. That is basically all of these. So we just come here, you copy all of these, and you pass it here. Bingo. Okay, I'm just going to format it a bit better. Okay, so this is our query. This is our from subquery, right? That is exactly the same as before that we have here. And now you don't need to do these rows, inner joins and stuff like that, right? Because at the end, this is already done on the query. So what you want at the end from this from is exactly the same columns that you have before. So you just want ID, you want the name, and we are going to generate another error, and then I'm going to say how we resolve it. So ID, name, and total. So from here, what we are saying, okay, generate this subquery that is actually our query, but now give me the real names of the columns, and that's it. So we save it, we go back here, we click on the users, and we click on the lenses, and it says there is an error, didn't select user ID. So let's just say, see here. Okay, let me go back here and do an F5. To the from, so see, there is a parenthesis missing here on the from. Okay, so we need to put the parenthesis. So the from, the parentheses. And no, there is another one. Violation, you have an SQL server where users deleted that is null. Very good. So because we are using soft deletes, we also need to pass that column. So we go here and you say users dot deleted that. So it needs to have this column on the query. And well, yeah, of course I need also to pass it here. Deleted that. And it says offset 0, select ID, users updated from users in a join. Let me just check again. And yeah, this parenthesis is wrong. This parenthesis is wrong. Let's see. Yeah, it came back. So here we go. So we do have now the same result, but using a subquery. And now if you use this one, see, ascending and descending. Perfect. So this is how you can resolve issues regarding to computation of computed columns that then you still need to use a sort by. Okay, this is a small improvement that I want to share with you from my experience, and basically, well, that is it. So lenses are these. Have fun with them and use them as much as you want, because you have full control on the query that and all results that you want to show on your resource. Thank you. Actions are operations that you execute on your resources. So let's say that, for instance, we have 5-6 resources here that we want to change the status from active to inactive or vice versa. So actions allows us to do that. We don't need to go one by one. Click here on inactive or active on this case, and then go to the next and to the next and to the next. So it doesn't work like that. So in case we want to bulk change data or execute something on our resources, like sending an email or canceling an order, or do something that you want to have control on those Eloquent models to then execute something from your side, from the server side, all you need to do is to create what Laravel Nova calls an action. So let's see how does it. Let's create an action, for instance, to change the status here from active to inactive. Okay, so of course in the Laravel Nova documentation we do have a lot of information there about parameters that you can use in your actions. There is a lot of different types of flexibility options that it has, from using destructive, like they call it here. It basically will change the button to a red button in case you are doing something a bit more deleting records, for instance, or something that is unreversible, right? So you can also pass, and we are going to do this too, you can, when you execute an action, before the action executed, you can ask for input. So we can use that input data to then process that information on each of the models that you have selected there. Okay, so to create an action, we do PHP artisan Nova action, and just doing a help here to show to you. So one of the options you can pass is destructive. So in our case, we don't pass it, we just call it change active status. And again, actions, it's like lenses, it's like filters. You can use them as much as you want on different resources. So it's always a good practice to create these kind of functionalities in a global way, or as much as possible in a global way. So if you need to you reuse them on another resources, you don't need again to recreate them specifically for that resource, right? So change active status can work, for instance, for products and for users, because it's the same column. It's called isActive, so we are going to pass it from 0 or to 1 according to a drop down that we are going to ask the user to select, if it's to pass to active or if it's to pass to inactive on this case. So let's see where it created. So if you go to app and then Nova, we again have a new folder here, corrections, and then change active status just like we did. Also, just to mention that by default, and if you implement the queuing, in this case interacts with queue and implements queuable, it will automatically implements should queue, sorry. It will automatically queue your actions. So this is very, very important in case you use job queues and you have your queues configured, your queues connection configured. You can use them right out of the box from Laravel Nova. Okay, so here you can see on the action, it has two default methods called handle and fields. Those are the most important ones. We do have other methods in case you want to download files, or in case you want to redirect the action after it executes to another page or to another resource. You can always see that on the documentation. But again, in this case, we're going to, on this first chapter, just go by the basics. So let's create a very simple actions for you to see how it works and for you to get an idea about how you can use them. So here on the fields, as you can see, you can pass fields. So as I said, we are going to create an action to activate or deactivate the resources that we select. So we want a drop down that says, I don't know, change to active or change to inactive, right? So all we need to do here is just use a select, and we call it like a status, and then we can adjust these labels later on when we see them on the screen. So options, right? And so here we do pass first the value. Don't forget, it's not first the text. If you see the fields, the select field, it's first the value, so it's 1 because that's the active for us. So I'm just going to put change to active, and the same, but in this case the contrary, right, to inactive. So now we have a drop down that says change to active or change to inactive. For now, I'm not going to do anything on the handle. We'll come just in a moment. Let's just activate this action on the resources, on the user resource. To activate, you just need to go here to the user, and then you go to actions, and it's as simple as the other ones. You just say new, change active status on this case, just like this. Very good. Change active status, just X imported. And now we go here to our users. We do an F5, and action select not found. Yeah, because I didn't inherit it. So what is important to understand on the action is, as you can see, nothing appears different here for the action. It only appears when you start selecting resources. See, select action, change active status, and the default name that appears here is the default name of your class, but you can change this to another thing. Let's just do it here right away. So you just do public name and then change resource active status. Okay, and now we do an F5, and it should say something there. Change resource active status. See, and it says user here. It's on the resource user that we are currently placing these ones here. And again, from here now, if I do something, you're going to see that actually nothing processes, but we can already see here our drop down, change to active or change to inactive, and of course it runs successfully, but nothing happens, right? It stays these 101, 199, whatever you do here, it just doesn't do anything, right? So how can we make it do something? So it's where it comes this handle method. And the handle method, you get the models collection and the fields. It's actually everything that you need. You don't need the requests. You can actually also, you have access to the Nova master class resource attributes. Know where you are if you want to do more things here, just like we saw it on the filters tutorial. But here for now, as I said, let's keep it simple. So just do for each models as model, and you say model is active, that's the name of the column, right, equals to fields status. So that's the name of the field that we gave here, and model save. Or you can just do an update directly as an eloquent model update, but let's just do it like this, it's fine. So again, for each model, so any model that comes on that collection, it will just basically update the status with the value that we pass here, and then we save the model. Just also you can customize that message that comes on the bottom right, that pop up. You just say action and then message, and then you can just say resources, items updated. This is where it comes again, the dynamics. If you access the Nova, as we saw here, on the filters, right, with this part you get the class, where are you working on, and you can actually say it's users updated or products updated, but in this case just keep it simple, says items updated, and that's it. Or so let's see again now what happens here. Let's go back to users. So I'm going to select the first three, 101, 199. Click here, change to inactive. So let's change to active. All of the three should become green. There you go, change to active. So now if you go back here and you change to inactive, all of them becomes to, oh no, actually it didn't change, because, let me just see it again. It's a good one. Change to inactive. Yes, sorry, made a mistake. Yeah, it changed to inactive. So again, inactive, and then last test, let's put them back to active. And there you go. Good. So this is actions. You now understood the basics of it. So how to create an actions. From here, the universe is yours. And you can do whatever you want. You can send emails, you can delete, disable accounts, you can do whatever you need using these actions. You now understand how you can control them. And also there is something that it's very nice, and I'm going to show to you here. It's called the action visibility. So if you put a show on table, so you have visibility for the action only on the index, only on detail, show on detail, etc. So you can even go here and view, okay, and then you have this action here already on top, right? And don't confuse with these actions that appear here on the bottom. This is the log that was done for the actions. So it's a log, okay? It's just a log for the actions that appear. But here you can do change resource active status, for instance, and you play it, and you are playing only for this resource, right? But there is also a possibility that you see a button here on the right. And to do that, we just need to pass on the user, and let's see if this runs well. Show on table row. So if you do a show on table row, new active status, show on table row. Let's see if it works. Et voila, change resource active status. See? So when you click here, then you execute this operation specifically for these actions. So again, let's put it in active on the resource 101, and it just changed. So as you can see, control over everything, a button on the line, on the top as a bulk, on the detail. I mean, it's up to you again to decide what you want to do, and all you need to do is to manage well these visibilities, so then you can create the back office exactly as you want in terms of these actions that you can do. Okay, that completes our lesson for today. Hope you enjoyed. See you again on the next one. So now that we create actions, lenses, filters, let's create metrics. So metrics is a functionality on Nova. It comes out of the box that allows you to create basically charts. So charts or trends or values or partitions or pie charts. So it's everything that is like something that you can compute to a chart. And Nova brings three types of metrics that you can see on the Nova documentation. One is the value metrics, the trend metrics, and the partition metrics. And we are going to go by the three on this tutorial. It's very simple to create them, very simple to use them out of the box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this resource that is the users resource to create them all of the three here. Okay, so metrics, they are defined as cards. So cards, by default, they will appear on the resource index here on the top. You can also define where they should appear, but for this tutorial, we are just going to make them appear here on the top. So we're going to create a value metric, a trend metric, and a partition metric. So let's start by the first one. There is the value metric. So value metrics, the way you can create it is you go to your PHP, to your console, you write PHP Artisan, and then you put Nova value and the name of the value. So in this case, on the users, for instance, we can create like on the ones that comes on the Nova documentation, that is the new users. So we just need to pass new users like this, and it creates basically on the same places as before. So app Nova inside the Nova folder, and then you have here these metrics with the new users created, right? So if we want to use it, we go to our resource user, and here on the cards, you just need to pass exactly as the other on the other tutorials, new and new users. Exactly on the same approach that we follow for lenses or actions or filters. We just pass the name of the class instantiation and it's done. So in this case, new users, it's going to give an error because you need to define the model, but just for you to see. So it says class model not found, but as you can see, it already creates here the card on the left. So we just go to the users, and here you define your model class. This is a stub, so you just need to put, like in this case, user class, and it's going to use the column created at to define the trends for the card that is there for that metric. So don't forget that is the model, not the resource that you should pass here. You save it, and then you can see here there is a range. These ranges, they are predefined ranges, month to date, quarter to date, year to date. You can actually pass ranges that you want if you don't want these numbers, and the card, the metric card, will automatically calculate those numbers for you. So if you do an F5 here, you can see now that I have these new users. So I just loaded on from the database. I just made a seed and I load some 100 users on different dates that they have created that. So if you come here and I just do select all from users, you're going to see this created at, and the created at, I just put some random dates there. Okay, so we just change, and then as you can see, it appears basically the information that you can see here. And you can say, okay, but what happens if I do want to, to customize some things here? For instance, I do want to place other type of information there, because this count automatically creates the object that allows you to basically return the values for the card. So the card has two values, has this value and the previous value that then is used to calculate this percentage. So in case you want to actually use that by your own approach, you can just pass here the two values. One is the result, so the result is basically the value that you see in front, and then you can have a previous, and it will automatically calculate that that percentage. So let me just put the rest here, put an F5, then you can see it passed to 200, and it was the previous 150, so it's 33. Of course, if I say this is going to be 50% of 100% of increase. It was 100, now it's 200, so 100% of increase. And of course this doesn't do anything because it's not taking in account what comes from the previous ones. But you can on these ranges you can define wherever you want here, and you can use it also on your requests here. So in this case, the way you do it is very simple. You just use the request and then the range on this case. Let me just check it here. So just do an info very quickly, request, and then range. If I'm not mistaken, ranges, sorry. So if I do just like this, just to show, just to check, I don't remember, but we can check it together. So if I just clean here the log and do an F5, and it creates nothing. It's not ranges, is range, and yeah, it's range, sorry, not ranges, it's range. So as you can see, the number that appears there is the number that you choose. So for instance, if you put here 19 days, you're going to see that the range, when we select here, now it's 19, see, so the number is 19. So with this number of the range, you can do whatever you want from here, right? You can count, you can, instead of having as soon as you affect the result on the previous with that range, then you do whatever you want. Okay, so this is the first one. So it's very simple. Of course, you have more things you can do in terms of formatting. You can even default, if there is a 0, it says you can define what is that 0 means if there is an empty results. Everything comes on the Laravel Nova documentation. Is again very simple to use, as you can see here. So let me just you have a count, but you can have an average, you can have a max. It's up to you to decide that. Okay, so again, very simple. So this is the what we call it on Nova, the value metric. And now we're going to create the trend. The trend, basically, it's a chart that goes a long time. Okay, so during, I don't know, the last 30 days, how did something evolved in a group by query. So in this case, we're going also to use the PHP Artisan, in this case Nova trend, and then you create like users per day. This is exactly what comes on the documentation, just to show to you. When you do this, it also creates here this trend. Now it's not no more the metric value, but it's a metric trend, and this is users per day. You also load it the same way. So you just come here and you put new users per day. Don't have 5, and if you don't do anything, I think it already works. Of course, model not found, so I need also to pass here the model that I want to work on. App user, don't have 5, and here we go. See, so it groups by the creator that, but of course you can define what is the type of group that you want to do here. Maybe you don't want to count by the ones that were created at, but you want to, you know, group it by other things. So there's always options that you can do here in terms of the trends, in terms of any type of options that you want to do, and even if you want to trend results by yourself, instead of doing this count by days, you just use the trend results that will show it immediately, the results here. So instead of having this, just like we did on the previous example, to pass something manual, you do return and then new trend results. So that's the type of result that will come in terms of the object itself, and then trend, exactly like the documentation says. And in here, the only thing that you need to do is to pass the ticks on your that you want to mark on the chart. Like, I don't know, Jan 1st, you say for instance 100, and then you can say, I don't know, Jan 2nd, Jan 3rd, and then 150, and then 200, and it will show something going up, hopefully. Yeah, see, and doesn't take into account anything here because I'm hard coding the numbers, right? But it's just for you to see that you can hard coding the way you want, and it just shows the result. In case you want to call other things, it will still work because it just takes the access legend, like you said. See, so again, full flexibility to do things as you want, without any issues here. So metrics are very user friendly, in this case code friendly, and as you can see, again, it almost works out of the box. Then you just need to customize it on your needs, the way you want. And finally, we are going to see now the partition metric, and the partition is basically pie bars, pie charts in this case. So you also do a PHP Artisan Nova partition, and let's call it users by active type. So we are going to use the isActive from my database to see if a user is active or not. So I'm going to put here new users by active type again, and here it's a bit different because it is groups by directly. So in this case, you also consider the user, and the group by column is the column is active. So this is the column I want to use to actually group something, right? And I can see it's going to say 0 or 1 because those are the two values that we have there, right? 0 or 1. So 5447, as you can see here, I made a count already previously, 5447. So if I run it again, PHP Artisan migrate fresh and seed to just to regenerate users with a random active, it's running right now. If I run it again, we have, oh, still 54, well, exactly the same number. Very nice. So in this case, well, let's just run it again to see if we get some different numbers. And 4457. Okay, good. So if I don't have 5, these numbers is going to change. 4457. Now you see that by default it places 0, 1 because those are the 2 group bys that I have, right? But you can customize the labels that you have there. So the only thing that you need to do, and I'm almost copy pasting this from the documentation, but at least you see it here working very nicely. You just pass what you call the label. So when you pass a label, then you can define what kind of legends do you want to have there. So switch is the value that comes from there. So 0, 1. So in this case, if it's a 0, I want to say inactive, right? Because 0, it's on my case is active, equals to 0 is inactive. 1 means active. So as simple as this. When you define these and then you run it again, you're going to see that it changes the labels for the right, inactive and active. So as simple as this again. So there are some custom packages that you see on novapackages.com that allows you to put some filters here, a very one made by Marcel Posselt. But again, it's very simple for you to use them, very simple to customize. Who talks about users talks about other things. All of these labels that you see here, even this formatting, you can format all of these and you can put them as you want. You can even use cards later on exactly with your type of charts if you create your custom card. But the ones that are brought by default by Laravel Nova, in this case, values, trends and partitions, at least gives you a very good start if you need to do back offices to show some graphs and charts for your clients. Okay, so hope you enjoyed it and see you again on the next tutorial. One thing that you're going to use a lot is relationships. So when you have a resource and you want to connect that resource to another one, just like you do on your Eloquent relationships, we can do the same here on Nova. So Nova allows us to have a resource and somehow connect it to other resources, like with any type of Eloquent relationship that you currently can use in Laravel. So for instance, if you have like users that, on my case here, I created an exercise, the users that can place orders, those orders are connected to products, and the product is connected to tags. So what we're going to do here on this tutorial today is we are going to verify how we can actually connect those kind of entities or resources one to each other via relationships. So to do that, the Laravel Nova offers all the types of relationships, has many, belongs to many, morphs relationships, a lot of types of morphs. And finally, also can you search relations and also create some inline relations for morph to and belongs to. So those types of inline relations means that you actually will pop up a model. So what we are not going to cover on this tutorial, but on a more advanced tutorial, is the polymorphic has many, and also the fact that you can edit pivot values on your many-to-many relationship. So those ones we are going to skip them for a more advanced tutorial in this course. So here let's start by seeing what I did. And if I go here to my Nova, Mastering Nova project, you're seeing that I have here some new models that I've just created, like order, product, review, tag, and user. So the logic here is very simple. We have a user that is connected to the order. The order by itself is connected to user and to products by a many-to-many relationship here, in terms, because we can have, of course, several orders for the same user. A user can have several orders in this case, or order is connected to several products, or one product is connected to several orders on this case, because of this belongs to many. So I'm also using a pivot column for the quantity, meaning that on my pivot table that connects in this case products with orders, also have a column called quantity. So this is very simple. If you go here to my MySQL and I go to the order product, you'll see that you have this quantity here. So I already fed up the database with a lot of data, just as make just some seeds here to load data. And I also already placed the relationships on all of the models that I'm creating here. So the review has actually a morph to many, morph one-to-many relationship. So in this case, the review morphs to a product. So a product can have reviews, or morphs to a user. A user can have also review, as you can see here, many reviews on this case. So the user can have many reviews. One review belongs only to one entity or a user or a product on this case. So very simple, nothing really fancy in terms of this structure. And to be honest, if you don't understand all these structure and relationships, it doesn't matter for now. What matters is that what we are going to do, that is create relationships for all of these models, in this case our resources on Nova. So let's start by the simple ones. So again, bear with me if something didn't go perfectly. So let's see how it goes. And I'm also going to follow the same relationships that we need here. So let's start by this orders has many. So if we go here to our Laravel Nova, we are going to see that we have these orders, right? That is placed here, and now we want to have that relationship to this has many. Sorry, not the orders, the user. So let me go back here to the users. So the users that are here, I want them to be connected to the orders, so has many. So to do that, what we need to do is go to our resource, so in this case the user, and you just apply it as a normal field. So what I'm going to do here is just call the field that is a relationship has many, and make, and here I give the name. So normally you just need to pass one parameter. It is the name of the label that you want to put on the on your relationship. So it's the same as here. So a user can have many orders, so I should call it orders. So exactly, because you can also pass more parameters. You can pass the name of the relationship in case you don't give the same name. Sometimes you can get orders by promotion, orders promotion, and then you can also come here and write orders promotion. So the second parameter is actually the name of, but if you don't put it, Nova calculates that from your label that is placed here. So well, in this case it doesn't matter because it's the same, right? So we just put as many, and then don't forget to import the namespace as you can see here, Nova fields has many, and I'm just saving the resource, and let's see what happens now here on the screen. So I'm doing an F5 and nothing happened. So nothing happened because the as many only goes to the detail in this case, so it doesn't appear immediately on the index. Sorry for that, I forgot to say that. So it's on the detail that appears the relationships, not on the index, because of course on the index you didn't select any resource, right? So it doesn't know what resource do you want to actually see the relationships from. So there is already here a mistake, an error. Let me see, what does it say? It says called undefined method app user orders. So if you go back here to our user on my app, yeah, I don't have orders because I forgot to put it actually here. So actually I call it orders promotion. Sorry for that, it was there. So do an F5 again, and here we go. So this user, the user number 98, it doesn't have any orders. So let's see if that's true or not. So if I go here and I put select all, select star from orders, where user ID equals to 98. Nope, it doesn't have. So what about the 97? Okay, the 97 has 3. So let's go here back to this to the screen again. There is no back button. It's still a bit tricky that we don't have that. So 97 Dr. Lenny Viskovsky, whatever, it should have something there. So let's see. There we go. See? So now we have the orders here. So the orders, as you can see, it's a relationship that is, a component that is automatically created, as you can see. So the orders, you can apply a search here that it will search on your in this case, well, yeah, it doesn't work because I don't have the searchable for the ID, so it doesn't know that column. That's fine. Actually, I think there is on the column orders a small mistake, not because of that. So this is nice. I know I'm doing things on the fly. So yeah, see the title name, there is no name on an order, right? So on an order, if you go here to the orders, you just have user ID and nothing else. So here we cannot actually use anything to search for an order because there is nothing else that I'm writing down here, right? So doesn't matter what we put here. What matters is that you can actually go and see the order itself, And when you see the order, as you can see, you have the details about the order, but of course you would like now to reconnect the order to the user, right? We can create an order directly from that user. So when you do this, what happens is I'm creating an order connected already to that user, where I can put here the total in case it's that case. In my case, the order is just this number of total is just the sum of the order items. So for now we don't do basically anything here. We can of course put the date here if you want, and then this creates an order specifically for this user. So let me just do it here as a quick example. I select like I sell something with a total of 150 euros. I may create order, and what you see now here is it shows your order. But if I go back to the user 97 and I do view, you will see that now we have those 150 euros here. See, it immediately connects the new Eloquent model that you created, the new instance from the order. It connects to the user. So this is very powerful when you are actually using Nova. This is one of the major functionalities of Nova, is the creation, automatic creation of these components and these relationships. So as you can see now, for the one-to-many it works like this. So what about the contrary? So in this case, the belongs to. So if I have this user, let's go back to the user here to see what happens. So the user has the orders, right? And of course the orders belongs to user, right? So okay, so let's put it the contrary here on our Nova resource. So I go to the order, and you just do exactly the same. You just write belongs to make, and then you call it user, and hopefully this will work. So belongs to, I imported the namespace, and what does it go? So if I go now to orders and I select one order, I don't know, this one that I just created, actually you already see here user Dr. Lenny Vizovsky or whatever, Vizokai. So when you click there, as you can see, you jump immediately to the detail of that user. You jump immediately to the orders. So you can see actions apply to this user also here if you need. So this is very powerful, as I think you already start to, of course, to understand how does it processes. So we basically create relationships between models, between resources, and everything fits together. You can navigate from one resource to the other, to the relationship items, coming back, etc., etc. So it's very, very powerful, and we just saw right now how we can do the belongs to many, and how we retro back it from the belongs to, so how I come back again. So this is the as many. So now let's work with one a bit more tricky, like the many to many. So what I have here in terms of many to many is I do have these orders here, so they do have the user ID of the order, but then I have this order product. The order product connects the order with the product. So this is the relationship many to many that I'm talking about. So if you go to order, here you'll see that you have this belongs to many from the products, and of course on the products you also have a belongs to many to the orders, right? So very simple. The only trick that you need to pay attention here on Nova is when you do a many to many, you apply it on both resources at the same time. Don't apply it only from one side, because sometimes it can get some strange results in terms when on navigation and moving forward. So I mean, one of the best practices I learned not to have surprises is always apply the many to many on both entities, meaning not like we did now, okay, you can put it on the users but not on the orders, but in this case orders and products, orders and users, orders and products, apply it on both sides. So what we're going to do is exactly that on the same way, very simple. So again, if we go back here, we have order and product. So that's the two that we are going to touch. We go here to the order, and you just put a new one called belongs to many. And again, it's the same logic like we did before. So on this order, it belongs to many, it's called products. So you also call it products, but again, you can pass more parameters. You can even pass the class that are the Eloquent model that are connected to you. In this case, if you need, no need here. So again, products is because the name of the relationship is also products, so nothing to do here. So again, we apply this one, and I'm just copying past this to the product. So the product is the contrary. So what we're going to do is basically apply to orders, right? That's what we do. And if I save, if I go back here, I now go to orders, And of course in the index you don't see anything because you don't know what to select. But let's go back here to the one that we created to see if something happens. So products, as you can see on this order detail, on the, so where am I? Orders, sorry. So order, we don't have products connected to it. So let me go back here to the products. So they should have. Actually we shouldn't, because if I do an order by desk, by ID desk, you see that there is, I know it's connected. Order ID, product ID 28 for this one. So let me go back here and do another one. So products, detail, and here we go. Yeah, so that one was empty, but this one's not. So for instance, so as you can see, product, orders, and then these are the orders one to many. So that's why you have a table that is different on this case, right? You have a product and the order, and that's where the relationship one time. Look here, it says attach, you know, because that's the belongs to the many to many. It's you attach eloquent models, right? And then when you attach, you select the one that you want, and this is the title that you select on your resource. So unfortunately for the resource we just have IDs, but if we had another one, like from the resources we attach the product, from the order we check the product. So let's go back to the orders and let's see that from this side. Orders, we select one, and these are the products. Now as you can see, you can attach a product. So if I go to the resource product and I go to the title, I have this name here. See, this is the name of the drop down. It's very important for you to know. So if I go here to my products, I also have this name here. See, Synergistic Steel, that's the column. So this is the column name that you want to see on all of the foreign key relationships. When I attach a product, I now see the name. But of course, if I put here description, it doesn't make sense, right? You'll see other kind of things. See? So again, the title is also dynamic. You can have a function that returns a title. And we can see this later on, how we can compute that. But again, here it's very simple. As you can see now, we have the name. So for instance, aerodynamic is silk knife. You attach a product to this one, and then if we go to the next one, or somewhere around here, it's there, it was there, sorry. Aerodynamic is silk knife, it's here. So it was the plate or the knife, I don't remember, but it was on one of these. I know it's 35 is the let me attach another one just to check. So for instance, durable iron bag, attach product. This product is already attached. Yeah, in this case it doesn't let me attach two products to the same one because it's unique. Let me put another one. Clock. Yeah, it's here, synergistic leather clock. So it's done. So see, very simple, nothing complicated. And this is how the many to many works. So we saw the belongs to many and belongs to. We saw the has many to many. Let's go now to the last one that is a bit more complicated. It's the morph many. So what we're going to do on the morph many, we're going to apply the reviews. And actually I just saw now that I don't have the reviews here created. So this is going to take a bit more time on this tutorial, but let's do everything and hopefully it goes well so I don't need to edit the video. So here we go. Nova, let me go to a simple one like this one. So I'm just going to duplicate it to call it review. So here we call it also review. App review. Title. So on my review, I have this review column. So let's call it review. For now, the search, we don't apply anything here. So ID, let me take everything out. And then we see what we need to do. So here, clearly I need a text make review. So that's the review itself, right? That we need to have. Review. Review. Good. So from this side we are okay. So fields, text. And now what we want to do is we want to actually morph it. So it works exactly the same way as the eloquent. So if you go here to my review, you see that you have this morph to, right? So you apply also this name of the field here. You apply the morph to, like this, make, sorry. You pass here reviewable, that's the name of the morph. But then you also pass the types. So what are the two types that you have here on the resources? Resources, not eloquent. So we do have, on our case for the review, we can have a review of a product. So that's one resource. Oops, sorry, Nova product. And we can have a review of a user. So that's the two that we did. So Nova user. So you do pass the two morphs that you connect to this reviewable, okay? So the product and the user. So I think I have it all here. Let's see how it works for this review. And when I have 5, it should be pure reviews here. Very good. So if I click on reviews, let's see if I start seeing something. So app Nova morph 2 doesn't exist. Good. So here we go. I forgot to import the namespace to start. Then another one, Laravel Nova Fields morph 2 type does not exist. Yeah, because it's not type, it's types. Good. Next one. Here we go. So this is the type of the morph. It's a bit more complicated. So as you can see, it appears the text, but then it says what is the entity connected to it, right? Or the eloquent model type connected to it. So it is product. And of course, you also have, somewhere, you also have users. If we move a bit forward here, let's put page. How many pages do we have? 105 out of so maybe page 15. User. See, user here. So when you click on this reviewable, you go to the user details. That is great. If you click on the details, you go to the review details with the user there. So this is really, really good. So this is how you can actually connect your reviews to each of the ones that you have. Now, how can we do the contrary? How can we be on the products or on the users that connect to the reviews? Well, it's exactly the same way as you do on your eloquent model. So let's go here to the user and let's add the morph many. So if you go here to my eloquent model, on the user, you see that I have the morph many already placed here. Morph many. Exactly the same way. Morph many make. And then you write here the name reviews. So it's exactly the same name as we have on our user. Reviews here. So reviews. And of course, again, if it's not reviews, again, just to tell the second parameters is the name of your relationship in case you have like this, okay? So it's very important because sometimes you do need to have names for the same eloquent model relationship, but you need to give it another name of another relationship, right? If you want, for instance, to have reviews from yesterday, and then you can apply where. I don't know if it works on the morph many, but you know what I mean. You can do these on relationships, so actually it filters down the relationship data, and of course it's the same eloquent model class that you want to have the relationship. So that's why Nova allows you to pass the name of the relationship as a second parameter and a third as the eloquent model itself. So in this case, it doesn't matter because we are using the same one. It's a simple example, and here we just add the morph many. So we are adding the morph many to users, but we are going to also add the morph many to products because it's the second one that is morphing to the reviews reviews eloquent model. So here we go. So let's see what happens now. So now I'm going to users. So user has reviews. So let's see what happens when I select a user. So it shows the orders that nothing here. So no reviews in this case because I'm using a random number. So let's select another one to see if it works, like Miss Grunman. If not, we go to the database, reviews, here we go. So this one, she has reviews. So as you can see, the ID 473 points to a user type, meaning that if you go to the reviews, and it's not going to work, yeah, because I don't have it on the search. So here, if we go to the 473, so very quickly, let's go to 74. Bear with me here a bit. I need to change the pagination, but not now. So 10. So 20. 473, right? It's the one that we are looking for. 476. One previous 473. Here we go. Fundamentally, we're trying to user miscurrent, exactly the one that we had. There we go. So I hope you like it. You saw relationships more in detail. I know the video was a bit long, and thanks for bearing with me on this, but I think it is very important that you can create the relationships you want. So the next video, we are going to start nailing down to the final of this first chapter with some tutorials that I'm sure you're going to like them. But again, relationships is this, and on an advanced tutorial on another chapter, you're going also to see the pivot maintenance that we can do, and also polymorphic relationship, in this case many to many. Okay, thank you.